After 18 movies and billions of dollars earned, the Marvel Cinematic Universe has all built to this: Avengers Infinity War, which I've just seen, and to be frank, I didn't really like it. Now, I seem to be in the minority there. I looked at a couple of reviews after watching the movie, and people are gushing over this, especially on Twitter, and critics seem to really love it. The reaction seems to be a very positive one. I did not like it. The people I was with did not like it. I just didn't find it an enjoyable, fun experience, which I've almost come to expect from Marvel films. I actually took a bit of a break before filming this after watching the movie to kind of clear my head and try to let my reactions die down and process what I had just seen, and I just did not like this film. No, sir, I did not. But despite not quite living up to the hype, the hope that I was feeling going into this movie, does it work as a sort of end cap for the franchise as a whole? I've seen some people argue yes. I personally don't think it does. It reminds me a lot of an event comic. And for those of you who read comic books, you know probably exactly what I'm talking about, where the film is an event. It is fight scene, fight scene, fight scene. A little bit of exposition, fight scene, fight scene. It is the culmination of this rising action that we've seen in the background of the last several films. But there's no true heart to the film. There are several character beats. There are some good character beats. But none of them are what I would call super memorable, other than one extremely emotional one that I can't talk about. We will talk about in a little bit. So does it serve as a fitting conclusion to everything that has come since 2008's Iron Man? Maybe. Let me explain. Though it's certainly the foundation of the MCU, it wasn't 2008's Iron Man that actually began to sow the seeds for Infinity War, despite introducing Samuel L. Jackson's Nick Fury. It was actually Iron Man 2 in 2010. That's where we're first introduced to Black Widow, where we first get a hint at Thor, where we get a better notion of the Avengers initiative, and, most importantly for our current discussion, where we first see an Infinity Stone. A sketch of an Infinity Stone, anyway. The Space Stone. Except we didn't know that's what it was yet. And we wouldn't get our actual first glimpse of it until Thor, in the very next movie, where it was referred to as the Tesseract. That would, of course, go on to play a major role in the Avengers, where we first meet, our grinning Infinity War antagonist Thanos. He didn't have any lines at that point, but he was there. And the last we saw the Tesseract was in Thor Ragnarok, resting rather alluringly in Odin's treasure vault. Thanos also gave Loki a scepter in the Avengers that we later learned contained the Mind Stone. Now, I don't know why Thanos would give Loki the Mind Stone if he's trying to collect all of them. Doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, but let's not worry about that. It was probably retconned in later on. These things happen. In Age of Ultron, the Mind Stone was used to give Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver their powers, and also gave rise to Vision, who has it embedded in his head. Yeah. Now, we didn't know these were Infinity Stones. These were just things. These were like MacGuffins. The idea that they were Infinity Stones first came in Thor: The Dark World, which is also where we first see the Reality Stone, referred to then as the Ether, or the Aether, whichever, which then gets delivered to the Collector in the same movie, who would also be handed the Power Stone in Guardians of the Galaxy, only to have it taken away, used, abused, and eventually locked away by the Nova Corps. Guardians of the Galaxy also gave us our first looks at the Time Stone, which really came into play with Doctor Strange, who possessed the Eye of Agamotto, in which the Time Stone is embedded, and the Soul Stone, which, before Infinity War, we haven't seen, though most guesses point to it being in Wakanda. Oh, and I should mention, Thanos grabbed the Infinity Gauntlet for some random place that looked like a vault or something in the end credit scene of Avengers Age of Ultron. I have no idea where that was, but who cares? So, all caught up? Good. So now let's get to Infinity War. The writing of Infinity War specifically. We're not talking spoilers just yet. And after all, this is drunk on writing, right? Obviously, the idea of Thanos just running around collecting the stones could get pretty boring pretty fast. At least pretty repetitive. It could look like he's just walking around saying, oh, this one, I need this one. You know, it'll look like a dude at Comic-Con looking for the missing issues in his collection. So the guys behind Infinity War, the writers Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely, who also wrote all 3 Captain America films and Thor: The Dark World, but let's not talk about that one. They had to think pretty carefully about how to approach this movie just the right way. At a press junket for Avengers Infinity War, I think last year or so, they told a bunch of reporters, including IGN, where I sourced this quote from, every time you collect an Infinity Stone, it can't just be a checkmark. It has to do something characterful. It's got to move the plot forward, but it also has to have stakes and costs for literal characters at the time, so that it's not just a shopping spree. The writers also wanted to prevent a criticism that's pretty much plagued every single movie in the MCU. That is that the bad guys kind of suck. They also told IGN here, we wanted to have a villain with understandable motivations and emotions. Our heroes are foils for the villain, whose story we need to tell at large. I linked to the full article and the details below, and I really recommend you check it out. There are no spoilers in that. That was published back in March, I believe, on IGN. It's definitely worth a read through because it kind of details the writing process behind it. But I think the writers took, if not a page, at least a similar page as the writers behind Black Panther did, because that film, Black Panther, the last before Infinity War, had what is easily the best villain of the entire MCU, Killmonger. He had motivations, he had emotions. That movie was his story, and Infinity War is Thanos's. So, did it work as well as Black Panther did? Well, I guess it's time to talk spoilers, so I'll give you to the count of 3 before we get to spoilers. 1, 2, 3. No, it didn't. No. Thanos was the heart and soul of this movie. Definitely. It was his story. This film revolved around him and his motivations and his emotions and his desires. But making us root for a character that we have seen only fleeting glimpses of for the last 18 movies, as he fights the characters that we've spent 18 movies cheering on and hoping and waiting to see them win, that is not going to happen. It's just not. And that's coupled with the fact that he basically wants to kill half the universe. He does kill half the universe, now that we're talking spoilers. He's an awful being. There's nothing good about him. Not even his intentions are good. You want to stave off extinction? Admirable, I suppose. Going about it the entirely wrong way. But that's not to say he didn't have some effective scenes. He did. Josh Brolin's Thanos was probably the best thing about this movie, which I don't think had all that many memorable scenes. The ending certainly was memorable because it was so traumatic. Spider-Man's vanishing in particular was extremely traumatic. The way he cried like as any kid would in the arms of Iron Man, his mentor, his hero, the person he looks up to, who he figures will save him. That was gut-wrenching to watch. And it was rough to watch pretty much everyone else die or vanish or get obliterated, whatever happened to them. The thing is, though, the impact of those deaths is lessened by the real-world knowledge that we have, where we know a a Spider-Man sequel is coming. We know a Black Panther sequel is coming. We don't know about the rest of them, certainly, so some of them could absolutely vanish, and they may not be coming back. But Spider-Man? Tom Holland just launched by far the most successful Spider-Man franchise for Sony, and he's going to be dead? I don't think so. I don't think so. And, this was the story of the villain. This was Thanos' story. This was Thanos' film. But he's got the children of Thanos, his little 4 henchmen. They're nothing but cannon fodder. They're CG cannon fodder. They do nothing for this movie. They do nothing for the plot but step in the way of our heroes and kill some of our heroes who, I just have to say, their deaths just held zero weight. Loki's death at the beginning, after we watched the Hulk get smashed to smithereens, I felt nothing. Heimdall's death, felt nothing. There was just no gravitas behind it. And I don't particularly know why. But again, maybe my reaction will change as I process it. Maybe when we come back a year or two from now and watch it again, especially in hindsight, after Avengers 4 has come out, maybe my opinion will have changed. Maybe others' opinions will have changed. Again, I seem to be in the minority here when I say this film did not work for me. I don't think any of the characters particularly shined. Not Iron Man, not Captain America, not Spider-Man, not anyone but Thanos. And Thanos was just not a character I could emotionally invest in as he destroys the world that we've come to know and love. I'm disappointed. As you can tell, I'm disappointed. I'm very disappointed in this film. It's very unfortunate. I really wanted to like this film, and I walked away wondering why I had spent 2.5 hours watching it. But thankfully, which was pretty cool, I got to see it for free because there was some kind of pipe burst in the theater and the seats got messed up, so we couldn't watch it in IMAX. We ended up watching it on a other smaller screen with the recliners and sat back. Instead of paying for the tickets, I went and bought a beer and got my wife a glass of wine, and that was fabulous. That was the best part of the night. And I will say the best part of the movie is probably when Captain America and Groot meet on the battlefield, and Groot says, "I am Groot," and Captain America goes, "I am Steve Rogers." That was a good line. Wish there was more of that. Even Spider-Man didn't get too many quips in there. You see Tony Stark and Peter Quill meet for the first time, you expect that to be amazing? It's not. There are a lot of people who never met on screen in this one. And Peter Dinklage's character, who popped in as a bit of a cameo, did not like that. Red Skull was cool. Generally, I didn't think the acting was all that great. Mark Ruffalo, what was happening with Mark Ruffalo? It's like, what was it, just bad dialogue, or was it bad acting? Hard to say. I can keep going on and on about this, but let me know what you think. Am I wrong here? Am I just clouded with wanting a positive movie? I can have negative movies and still think they're brilliant. It's certainly possible. Look at Ex Machina. I thought that was one of the best movies around. That certainly did not have a happy ending. I don't know. We have Ant-Man coming soon, so maybe that will wash the flavor out of my mouth from this movie. But yeah, let me know in the comments below what you thought. And, per the Russo brothers, please be sure not to spoil this movie for others. Thanos demands your silence. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to subscribe to the Drunk on Writing YouTube channel. Head on over to patreon.com/drunkonwriting for all the exclusives you can get on over there. Or just, hit the thumbs up button. Whatever you feel like doing. It's all awesome, and I thank you for it. But, until then, until next time, cheers, and keep on writing.